Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to chat with you a little bit about how coronavirus or COVID-13 can affect depression and our attachment style. Okay, so before I start, I'm going to go into a little bit about what the basic causes of depression are, and I'm going to relate this to like what's happening in the times that we're in, because I think if you have a deeper understanding at the root level of what's going on, like specifically in the subconscious, it will absolutely help you guys navigate. Anybody who's experiencing any of this right now will help you to navigate deeper understanding and also better solutions to help mitigate some of these challenges that are popping up. Okay, so before I dive in really quickly, we have an amazingly supportive community online to help meet some of the needs that are not being met right now. And I'm here to support you guys as well. So we're doing 25% off membership sales for bundles like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, etc. And also individual course purchases. So we have breakout sessions and mastermind groups. We have an online community. We do 2 live webinars a week. We're adding third options for webinars. We're gonna have tons of content coming. We've got over 25 courses inside the school. So we have the supportive community. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure if anybody wants to sign up and just have this community online and all this learning and this opportunity to really work on the relationship with yourself. If you have any financial challenges, reach out to my team, let them know, info@personaldevelopmentschool.com. We will help to support you through different scholarship options. And also, if anybody comes in and purchases and then is unhappy with the content or anything like that, we give money back guarantees for these sorts of things. So we haven't had anybody say any negative thing about the content since they've been there or ask for any of that back. So it's really useful. I've seen amazing transformations in there, and honestly, I wouldn't be sharing that or saying that if it wasn't true and I wasn't really passionate about how much this really can support people. So please come join our community if you think it's a fit for you. We'll help support whatever lifestyle you're currently living in, and just make sure that you have access to resources and a community and people during this time. So we are here if you need anything, okay? And also let me know in the comments below, like if that's not for you, let me know what you want to see in the video so I can create supportive content here for you guys. Just whatever you need, tell me, and I'm here to sort of adapt and pivot and do whatever is needed, okay? So anyways, I will go into the content for today. Number one, the 2 basic causes of depression, and really, we have sort of like secondary causes, but at the root level, it's really only ever these 2 things. Are number 1, deeply unmet needs in our lives that we are wired for and not receiving. Or number 2, different belief patterns that we're carrying in the story of ourselves and how those produce different thought, emotional patterns as a result. Okay, so I'm going to dive into really what that means. And this is, if you can really understand this part, this is a game changer for you and your mindset. So if you look at a baby, for example, you don't see a baby that comes into the world with depression. You don't see a depressed infant, because infants aren't depressed. And people say, okay, depression is a chemical imbalance. And absolutely it is. And absolutely people can have a certain predisposition towards neurochemical reactions, right? Or neurochemical imbalances, I mean. But here's what happens. We collect all these belief patterns that imprint our subconscious mind as we go through life. So let's say, for example, you're a child, and maybe because of your environment or a circumstance that you're in, you adopt these beliefs about yourself that you're not good enough, you're not truly loved for who you are, you're going to be abandoned easily, people don't care about you that much, these sorts of things. So let's say you adopt these different belief patterns into your subconscious mind, okay? What happens? Well, you go through life, and because of the story you've created about yourself at a subconscious level, because of traumatic or painful experiences you had, these belief patterns produce all sorts of thought patterns. So things like, if I believe I'm not good enough, I might be like, oh, I'm not very smart, I'm going to have a hard time succeeding here, I better not bother. Oh, I'm not very this, that, and the other, fill in the blanks, right, with whatever your experiences are. And so I better just not try too much, or and so you're going to have all these beliefs which create thoughts. Thoughts produce emotional responses. How do you feel when you think about you not being good enough at something? You feel insecure, anxious, sad, afraid, all these different feelings. So thoughts produce emotional responses. They do circle back, but thoughts are producing them all the time. Thoughts have emotional output constantly, consistently. And then your emotional responses are made up of neurochemical reactions. Okay, so if I'm having a lot of painful thought patterns because of beliefs I've accumulated about myself and stored at the subconscious level, then I have all these painful emotional feelings and neurochemical reactions. And if that's happening, if we have roughly 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, research shows, and I'm doing that all day long, if more than half my thoughts are like that, I'm creating painful feelings in patterns on autopilot all day long, which is going to eventually produce some kind of neurochemical imbalance in and of itself. Okay, so I just want that part to be really clear. The stories we have about ourselves and the core beliefs we've collected produce patterns of emotion, which produce neurochemical reactions, which means we can change the neurochemical output that's going on all day if we learn to change our thought patterns or our core beliefs. Okay, and as somebody personally who, over a decade ago, but as somebody personally who struggled with depression and anxiety and was on antidepressants and have not been on them in a very long time and will never be on them again, I can tell you that while there's absolutely a need for certain people and at certain times, this isn't me saying like don't take antidepressants or anything like that. That all has to be done with a supervising physician, and any stuff that you're doing needs to be in a relationship one-to-one with a therapist if you're trying to change anything that you're taking or doing. But we can change the neurochemistry of our brain because of the way we're believing and thinking about our lives, ourselves, and our reality, okay, and our memories and our old experiences. So that's number one. Number two, unmet needs are always going to produce emotional output. And again, your emotions are made up of neurochemical reactions. So if you have all these unmet needs, like let's say you have a deep need for love and connection and it's unmet, that's these basic human needs that we're wired for. And we're going to talk about the 6 basic human needs that we're wired for, which are certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, growth, contribution, and significance. Okay. If you have these things and they're not working or they're not getting met, then your subconscious produces pain. Why? It's an evolutionary thing. It's like if we know that we need connection to adapt and evolve, our brain's naturally wired for attachment to one another. And when that's not met, we're going to have pain. And that pain is forcing us to move, to take action, to change what we're doing, to evolve ourselves. So if we have needs unmet and we're telling painful stories about ourselves all day long in our mind, or our belief and thought patterns, both sides of these things are going to coalesce and we're going to have all these negative emotional responses that are just happening at a subconscious level throughout the course of a day, which is then going to create a change in your neurochemistry. Okay, so because of the climate of what's happening right now in the world, some of these things are going to be pushed on. Some of these things are going to start popping up. We're going to see people who maybe were feeling okay and mentally pretty good, but then all of a sudden some of their really important needs are met. Maybe you really need to be outside and exploring, and you need that uncertainty need to be met of exploration and novelty and new things. And maybe you have a really high need for love and connection. And maybe you live alone and that's being stripped to a certain degree, or pushed on, taken away to a certain degree. This is going to create an output of negative emotional responses. That's your brain actually doing its job. It's saying, hey, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel good, this isn't even the safest thing. We need connection for safety and evolution, and we need to try new things to explore and expand ourselves and learn. And so your brain's doing its job, and we don't want to change that. We want to change the fact that we have to shift how we're getting these needs met, because that's our point of control. So what I want you to do, here's an exercise, okay? Number one, write out your 6 basic human needs and write what's being affected the most by the environment right now, okay? What you're gonna see, it's probably love and connection, uncertainty, which is like the exploration or novelty type need because we're confined a little bit, right? And certainty is also going to be affected because we don't know when things are going to go back to normal, how long this is going to go on for. So there's some of that element to it as well. And what you need to be able to do is sit down and come up with conscious and intentional strategies to get these needs met that are different than what you're used to. So for example, love and connection, maybe you join people, talk to them more online more, reach out to family and friends, have Zoom calls or Skype calls. You have to be intentional about the ways you get your needs met so that you can change that constant emotional output that's circulating, going like beep, 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 hey, your needs are not being met. It's not good. It doesn't feel right. So we want to pivot and adapt the way that we're getting our needs met once we become conscious about what they are, okay? And number two, when we have all these painful things that we're thinking, we want to start tracking them. You want to start observing what belief patterns are popping up for me. And I'll give you just a few core beliefs that we carry. There's roughly 18 to 22, and I'm not going to go into like all of them and just list them out, but some of the really major ones that we might be feeling right now are things like I am alone. I am unsafe. I am abandoned. I am excluded. I am not good enough. I am unworthy. I am unloved. People don't care about me. I'm disrespected. Um, Start with those. There's a whole bunch of other ones, but they relate less to COVID as a whole. Start with those. See what's coming up for you right now. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's any other one that's really related to COVID. I don't think so. So see what comes up for you and see what's pushed on. And what your job is to do is change the way you're thinking about the situation. So let's say, for example, that you feel like you're unsafe. Okay. What you want to be able to do is recognize, okay, there are definitely elements of this. I'm not taking away from that, that are not very safe. Like we have to be extra cautious. We have to be extra careful. But maybe you have safety to the certain degree that you have a roof over your head. Maybe you live in a more developed country. And so there's less likely for, this big, great community spread to occur. Um, Maybe you have safety because you can choose what times you go out. You have some kind of control, right, over when you leave your house, what you do, whether you order groceries or not. So maybe you have safety in those ways, and maybe you just have safety in terms of people around you, people who will support you, a pretty good healthcare system where you are. So look for things that are also creating safety. As soon as we look at things from a one-sided, polarized perspective, where we see only a lack of safety, and we don't see safety at the same time. As soon as there's an imbalance in the way we're perceiving the wholeness of reality, and we create the selective perception and split off, this is when there are going to be problems. Okay, so this is when we're going to have the biggest challenges. And the different attachment styles here that are going to be impacted differently. Anxious and fearful avoidant are all going to have a little bit of feelings of like alone, um, abandoned, disconnected, these sorts of core beliefs. Okay. Oh, core beliefs as well that people are going to feel, bar none, trapped, helpless, powerless. Those are some other core beliefs. Okay. So you might be sitting there and you might be like, oh, fearful avoidants are going to feel that the most, along with their sort of anxious side. And dismissive avoidants are going to feel some of those same sorts of things. So what I want you to do is for that component, so outside of the needs, just the beliefs, the stories you're telling yourself, what I want you to do is try to look for where these things are not completely true by finding where their opposite exists in different forms. So for example, let's say you're feeling uncertainty, okay? A really great thing to try to do is let's say you're feeling I am trapped, okay? Something you can do is you can look for freedom. Where is there freedom in my life still? And it might be in small things. It might be, hey, I'm not working as much, so I have more freedom of my time. Or I can at least work from home, and so I have some freedom to sort of split up my time throughout the course of the day how I want. Maybe it's I have the freedom to still go outside and take a walk if I need to. I have the freedom to talk to people when I need to. So we want to be able to see where these things still exist, because not only does it change that one-sided story that's the source of so much pain, but it also empowers us to be able to recognize what we do need. If you're trapped, you're obviously seeking some freedom, right? And it's going to point you in the direction of those 6 basic human needs so that you can create updated strategies and pivot the way that you're getting these needs met, so that you can be more in charge of your emotional reaction and the things that create it, instead of those emotions taking over you. So I hope this is really helpful. Please let me know if you have any other questions or comments, and happy to create any more content that you guys are specifically looking for, and would always love feedback on what that is. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.